Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on the whole DC TV, Arrowverse, Crisis on Infinite Earth stuff because, yeah, some interesting stuff to talk about. And look, we're going to go over this main bit of information, then also an interview, which gives us some more Crisis stuff to talk about as well. But you can tell by the title, some cool information was revealed, and that is that Tom Welling is actually back as his Smallville character in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. So it is a bit hard to tell whether he is playing Superman or not because of the wording of what's said when he's coming back. So we can jump into the excitement bucket and think there's going to be another version of Superman, but it could be not the case. But anyway, this is what Mark Guggenheim said about the whole Tom Welling situation and him coming into Crisis on Infinite Earths. For 8 years, Arrow is still on the shoulders of Smallville. Simply put, there would be no Arrow and no Arrowverse without it. So when we first started talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths, our first, second, and third priorities were getting Tom to reprise his iconic role as Clark Kent. To say that we're thrilled would be a Superman-sized understatement. Now, really, ever since Crisis, well, not even really since Crisis on Infinite Earths, basically over the seasons, once Tom Welling has started getting back into acting, people have been asking, is he going to show up in a crossover? Is he going to show up in Supergirl? You know, like all these various things. So it's not extremely exciting that he's actually, not extremely surprising. Sorry, of course it's exciting. It's not extremely surprising that he's actually showing up this time around. It's just more just like better late than never. You know, things eventually happen. Now, Stephen Amell did say there'd be no crossover without Tom Welling, so Tom Welling is in the crossover. Now, the thing that needs to be said here is that even though Guggenheim does say, to say that we're thrilled would be a Superman-sized understatement, he actually doesn't say that he's reprising his role as Superman. He does say he's reprising his iconic role as Clark Kent. So maybe we're reading in between the lines here, and he is just coming back as Clark Kent, or he is coming back as Superman, because we already have Tyler Hoechlin Superman, or Hoechlin Superman, and also Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come sort of Superman. So will we have three Supermen? That'd be pretty. I think you think it's a missed opportunity not to have three different Superman suits on screen. But I guess it's for us to wait and see. But it is very exciting just to have them all there and just to get Tom Welling there. I guess the big question is Michael Rosenbaum going to come play as well? Now, the reason that they probably announced this is due to a script reading that's apparently meant to be going down this week. For Crisis, there was talk that Crisis was meant to start in 2 weeks, which during the interview we go over in a second might not be the case. But yeah, this is just extremely exciting news, and this might be why they announced it just due to that script reading. But yeah, let's just move on to that interview now with LaMonica Garrett, who of course plays the Monitor, and he revealed some pretty interesting stuff as well. Now, the first thing to say, he did tell the guy that was interviewing him that he'd got to the Toronto International Film Festival from an Arrowverse set, and he does say in the interview, which I might include later in the video as well, that he had just wrapped episode 5 of Arrow, or they had just wrapped episode 5 of Arrow. But the fact that he knew that insinuates that the Monitor will be in episode 5 of Arrow. So there's a lot of other things that he relates back to Arrow in this video as well as the Flash and Supergirl as well. So there's a lot of stuff to go over. But speaking of going over stuff, we're going to go over the interview. Now, I will pretty much just play the portion of the interview where he answers the certain questions and then go over anything if it's needed. So, yeah, here we go. So, first up, he was asked, what is it like being the linchpin in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, as well as getting to play both the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor?
Bringing the Monitor out was a big deal. He's, he's not as big as other characters that you'd see, like Superman and Batman and all these other characters. He's kind of obscure, but bringing that to life for the first time was fun. And when they told me I was going to be the Anti-Monitor, that was a game changer. I'm like, so I get to play both of them. So I'm in heaven right now. It's a good experience.
Now, for those that have followed the Crisis stuff, you would know that LaMonica Garrett is pretty familiar with the comics, so you can tell he was pretty pumped to play both of the big characters in the Crisis event. Obviously, I think his mind sort of was blown a bit when he found out he was playing the Anti-Monitor as well. And even though, like, mainly the Monitor, I guess, might be seen as, like, very obscure characters and not the, not the A-listers and not very well known, like, say, Batman and Superman, like LaMonica Garrett said in the video, they are vital to the Crisis story, which, as I've said in previous videos, is probably the biggest event to happen in comics ever, regardless of whether it is Marvel, DC, or Simpsons comics. Like, it's a pretty damn big event, and it is I can't even speak. It is easily the biggest event and the one that left the most damage and the biggest influence, if you want to call it. Now, LaMonica was then asked, does he know how Arrow will end?
I do not. I know the comic book, and they're sticking pretty close to what the comic book was. So that's kind of, it's a good thing, but you can't adapt everything from the page.
Sure.
But they're doing their spin on it, and so far it's like they're hitting it out of the park.
So, my thoughts on this. So, LaMonica denied not knowing how Arrow ends, which doesn't surprise me in, like, the slightest. I think only the showrunners and maybe the head writer and probably Stephen Amell himself, who plays Oliver Queen, actually know how exactly, I guess, how Arrow ends and what us viewers get to experience right at the conclusion of episode 10, which obviously, for those, playing at home, will be Arrow's series finale. But the fact that he does speak about Crisis being, like, pretty spot on to its comic book counterpart is very exciting. Obviously, due to limitations on characters, not everything can be exactly like it is in the comic, but what LaMonica says here is almost like, I guess, like, reassurance is the best word, I guess, like, to those who might be in, like, say, like, a bit of doubt as to whether the crossover will live up to what it is setting up and what we as fans are expecting to see. But, when filming starts and, we're bound to get set photos, if not a decent amount of set photos, I think we're going to get a good grip as to whether they're following the comic in a decent way. Now, LaMonica was then asked this: are Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, and The Flash run differently behind the scenes?
I deal a lot with the makeup departments because of my whole get-up. So there's different personalities within those departments. And you could tell Arrow's been there for a while. They've been there for 8 seasons. So they're just a well-oiled machine, you know what I mean? So there's little things that are different between all of them, but most of them run pretty tight ships, so it's all good.
Now, in regards to thoughts on this, there's not many thoughts here. Like, let's just be completely honest. Let's just move on. So he was then asked, do the CW shows have a lot of rewrites?
There's a lot of changes that go on, and it's with that character, he has a cadence the way he speaks. Like, I don't speak. Sure. I don't think anyone speaks like the Monitor. So I kind of get the character down, and when there's changes on the last minute, it kind of throws off a little bit, but you just, you recalibrate, you check back in, and you go for it. And
sure.
It's been hitting home since.
Now, this sort of surprised me that there were as many changes as LaMonica sort of hints at, but it might just be a thing with his character and certain guest characters and stuff, where, things change or they might like a certain character, so they give them more lines. Like, I guess the biggest rewrite in a character's history would probably be Felicity Smoke, which was only meant to be in one episode, and they rewrote it, the story and certain bits of what was meant to happen in season 1 to fit Felicity in. So there's examples there where a character, whether it's a good character or a bad character, are liked more, and they might change it up to give them better lines or more lines in an episode or even more episodes as well. Now I'm just going to play a video of what LaMonica says in regards to Crisis.
We're midway through on Arrow. I bounce around to, different shows. We just wrapped episode 5 of Arrow. So
got it.
It's the halfway point.
Got it.
And we start shooting Crisis maybe in another month.
Now, this was from last weekend, I think, as I said. I think that's when the International Film Festival of Toronto was taking place. So that would make it about, 3 weeks from now, roughly, maybe 3.5 weeks, roughly. But Crisis might start filming a bit earlier than that. As I said, there was talk that it was meant to start, within the next 2 weeks, if not a week and a half from now. But he says it's about a month, so 3.5 weeks from now. But there is a possibility that Crisis might start filming scenes before LaMonica's involved, as they might film scenes with other actors for a few days or a week or so before his character gets more involved. So there could be scenes between, Barry and Iris, Oliver and Barry, Oliver and Scooby-Doo, I don't know, characters like that. So there could be scenes like that where he's not involved, but I'd expect Crisis, I'd follow his word. So I'd say 3 weeks at least until it starts filming. We'll have to wait and see. And the final question that LaMonica was asked was about his big part in Arrow this season, and I guess how big is it?
Yeah, I'm Arrow heavy this year.
I was going to say, you also, I think it ended with you basically picking him up or something and saying, or something's happening.
Pretty much told him to get his affairs in order.
Yeah, exactly, I remember that.
Yeah, it's something's coming. So Monitor and Arrow are pretty much joint at the hip for this last season, but he does bounce around and he wreaks havoc. And you think Monitor is bad, it's like bad cop, worse cop. Because anti-monitors come in. So, you know, the audience that's hating one person right now, when they see the other guy, it's gonna be real.
Right. Well, first of all, I'm just going to say congrats on booking an awesome gig like that.
Thank you very much.
Now, Monitor is a hard ass and does wreak havoc a bit, which we've already seen. But as he says, himself, you know, the Monitor and Oliver will be attached at the hip, but he will bounce around. And by that he means, you know, bounce around to other shows. Now, he doesn't say exactly what shows, but we know he will be in episode 1 of The Flash season 6 we're up to, as we got a promo image, and it had already been spoken about by LaMonica himself, I think, as well as Grant Gustin. But we did expect him to show up on Supergirl as well, and while there is no like written confirmation or official confirmation from anyone, LaMonica did post this picture here, which doesn't say yo, I'm in Supergirl, but it is him as the Monitor reading Crisis on Infinite Earths, the comic, which is a bit meta, but he does appear to be in the DEO for Supergirl. Now, we don't know what episode this is or even when this photo was taken, but at least this sort of does suggest or confirm he will be on Supergirl before Crisis kicks off, which I think we all expected, so no, not a massive surprise. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on what we went over, all of that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.